Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Allison Sports Podcast series. I am Shane Wynn. I'm joined by my colleague, Shane Arman. How you doing, Shane?
Doing well.
Awesome. And Jason Tytler, who is a longtime friend and former colleague of ours in the sports marketing space, doing a lot of consulting and working specifically with our guest here today, Curtis Granderson. Hey, Jason.
How you doing?
Curtis Granderson, you're a former MLB outfielder, 16 years in MLB, Tigers, Yanks, Mets, Dodgers, Blue Jays, Brewers, Marlins. I think I got that right. Roberto Clemente winner, Silver Slugger, Blue Island native, right? Just south of Chicago. Both your parents were educators. You got deep connections to UIC. Your grad there. You've got a stadium named after you at UIC, where you have created the Chicago Baseball and Educational Academy. You also had established the Grand Kids Foundation, which does a lot of good in Chicago with food insecurity, working with a few food banks. You're commentating on TBS, your baseball commentator, and the president of the Players Alliance, which is dedicated to improving inclusion and diversity in the sport of baseball. Most importantly, you're not a Cubs fan, but I digress. So, hey, I want to start out. We took a good look at what you've been doing with the Chicago Baseball and Educational Academy at UIC, and it's fascinating to me how focused you are on not just baseball itself, but the use of baseball in the context of education. So, let's talk about that. How'd you get that off the ground?
It's unique. I went to UIC. I got an opportunity to play collegiate baseball there, which then gave me the opportunity to play professional baseball. But that wasn't the main focus or the goal. If you ask my parents, they said we were never trying to raise a professional baseball player. We were trying to raise a good human being, a good young man. So part of that was, okay, I got to do well in school, treat others like you want to be treated. And this giving back component, which it wasn't like we sat down and said, this is what you do. I just watched and observed my parents doing it and didn't realize that's what it was called. They would always invite people over. Hey, come get something to eat. Take a plate home. As both of them being teachers, as I would go through the school age grades and outgrow things, jackets, backpacks, shoes, clothes, all those things, they would then take it, bring it to school because they knew there was somebody there that could utilize some of those items. Again, I just thought that's what you do. Yeah. So I was around all that and saw it. And then when I got to a position after getting drafted from UIC to play professional baseball and then making it to the major leagues, it's like, all right, I can use my platform now to be able to help others hopefully accomplish what it is that they want to accomplish. And totally appreciative of everything UIC has done, and it's why I've been so heavily connected to them even to this day. And that's where we started the Chicago Baseball and Educational Academy on the heels of building the stadium there, which obviously the university athletic department gets a chance to utilize all year long. But whenever it's not in use, we get a chance to get 60 communities from around the Chicagoland area, kids ages 8 to 18, a lot of them onto a college campus for the first time ever. And it's all thanks in parts to the Chicago Baseball Educational Academy, CBEA.
That's great. I mean, it seems to me that if I'm a kid, what are they, 8 to 18, right? That's the age range for the academy. If I'm a kid, that's a great way to get an introduction to college in putting into the context of baseball. So that's got to be awesome. Jason, you do a lot of work with Curtis for CBEA. I would imagine that organizations like this always can benefit from marketing relationships with brands, right?
That's right. And thank you for bringing that up. Certainly it's a great opportunity for brands to get involved in a very worthwhile cause, both locally, but also nationally, as Curtis starts to do work around the country. And there are so many different aspects of the academy that a brand can fit in. Certainly, once we talk about sports and we talk about education, there are a lot of needs that these young students do have, and these young athletes do have, from equipment to all sorts of supplies. to really better understanding from an educational perspective from these brands what it means to be in the job force. And I love what Curtis was saying about his platform, because each individual participant of the academy will also be able to develop their platform for giving back once they become a person in the workplace, and somebody that can also make sure that they pass it on to somebody else. So it's an academy that not only gives while you're in the moment, while you're actually learning baseball and learning more about the educational environment, but it's an academy that will give for the lifetime of the individual that's participating.
Yeah. And Jason, you mentioned even like the equipment needs, and I'm just thinking about the whole ecosystem of sports. And, one client that we work with is Good Sports, or a national nonprofit, and they facilitate equipment donations at scale by forging partnerships with equipment manufacturers. And I'm just thinking about like just this really deep need there's a lot of stats out there that say less and less kids are getting interested in playing sports and staying active. And so, Curtis, I don't have you seen that, and like how does that play into some of the work that you're doing? Is it about bringing more of the youth into that sports ecosystem, no matter what they end up doing, versus playing sports or going into sports marketing, for instance?
It's so unique because there are a lot of kids that get introduced to whatever the sport is at a very early age. Mom and dad say, hey, you're signing up. We're taking you to this. They get into it. And then there's a lot of things as they start to go through the process that start to get them out of it. Either they dislike it, there's other things that are of interest, or as you mentioned with the equipment, the cost starts to become a barrier to get in.
Sure.
For example, with baseball, and I know we've talked about equipment, but let's just take example, travel baseball is a very popular thing. And once you hit a certain age range, now that is one of the only ways you can continue to play. And I have some family friends right now that are debating, is it financially better for them to purchase a RV or continue trying to fly and go to all these different tournaments and showcases across the country? Having to make that decision on if I just want to play baseball or not is a challenge that we have to think about. So one of the things that we've been trying our best to do with CBEA is say, we have so much talent in this great city of Chicago, the third largest city, 2 sports teams. You mentioned the Cubs and the White Sox. A lot of these kids are fans of both of those teams. Once we get them in and get them started playing in their local house leagues, their community leagues, and if they want to continue to keep progressing and playing, part of the issues come on is availability, especially in the wintertime when it is snowing. I need to find a way to practice, play, and train. And we do have the stadium outside, but we also have indoor facility at UIC that we offer up free to the community, again, when the university is not using it. So these teams can continue to practice. It's not eating into their budget. It's not coming out of mom and dad's pockets saying, okay, I got to pay for gym time. I got to pay for cage time. I got to pay for field time. Just anything to try to keep that burden low. So if you do want to play it, you can hopefully continue to stay in the game. Because as you mentioned, the equipment prices gets high, the bats change, the specs change, the models change, you get bigger, you outgrow, you need more than one, you need more than two, and it starts to add up really quick. So any way we can try to help soften that, that's one of the big things that we're trying to do with CBEA.
Makes sense. So in addition to all this that you do with UIC and in the city of Chicago, you also have a very prominent role with the Players Alliance, which is made up of current and former MLB players. And I know the goal of that organization on inclusion and increasing diversity in the sport of baseball is an awesome goal. Let's talk about that for a minute and how you got involved in that.
So it's 2020. I know all 4 of us right now are doing a video chat, but prior to 2020, very rare did that happen as consistently as it did. So COVID's happening. There's no baseball happening. We're all sitting at home. We all find out how to do this. We can get on. We know how to mute. We know how to turn horizontal and vertical, do all that stuff. So we have players that are coming together saying we got to do more in this game. that we have all been talking about already. We have a lot of these locker room conversations. The generations before us, the Dave Winfields, the Willie Hortons, the Dave Stewarts, they've all talked about just trying to provide more opportunities for players of color in and throughout this game. Now we're collectively together throughout that year of 2020. Edwin Jackson, one of our founders who holds the Guinness record for most teams ever played for, including both Chicago teams, he knows everybody. So he's reaching out and contacting everybody. Let's get on this Zoom. Let's get on these video chats. And all of a sudden we got 200-300 players that range anywhere between the age of 9 all the way up to players that have been retired for 10, 20 years. And we're conversating and we're communicating and talking about things that we like, things we'd love to change, things we'd love to see. And then the Players Alliance is formed. And now, fast forward, we have a partnership with Major League Baseball Players Association, and we've been able to get out into a lot of different communities across the country and internationally and into the Bahamas. So it's been really neat and unique to see how everything is unfolding. Still a lot of work to do, still a lot of things to continue to keep doing, but it's definitely great that we've been able to come together like we've been talking about for decades, and now we have it and we can keep this thing going.
So, Curtis, you mentioned that partnership with Major League Baseball. Clearly, Major League Baseball has taken notice. If you look ahead to the 2024 schedule, a number of crown jewel events on the calendar, including the East-West Negro League All-Star Game, as well as the Rickwood Game. So maybe talk a little bit about how you see that evolution coming to life and your excitement for that in 2024.
It's so cool. The MLB has connected some of these jewel events, such as the Little League game that's tied around the Little League World Series. And, that's a lot of people's first introduction into the game. That's how I started. I played T-ball and was in Little League and got a chance to go there. And actually, a little tidbit, my first professional minor league game was actually in Williamsport against the Williamsport, I think they're called the Cross Cutters. It was a Pirates organization, but that's where I started my professional career. So I got a chance to see it, but I haven't been a part of that side of it. And then MLB did the Field of Dreams game, which was awesome. Tim Anderson hits a home run, and the scoreboard looks like it's going to explode in the cornfield. And you keep adding it on it because all these things have just such history and nostalgia to them. And baseball fans love that side of it, tradition, history, understanding it, the trivia side of it. And we can't forget the Negro Leagues and what black baseball brought and is still bringing to the game. For example, night games exist now because the first night game was played in a Negro Leagues game. So the fact that we're going to be at Rickwood Field and we're going to do the East-West game, all paying homage to the Negro Leagues and what that organization and those players that came from it did for Major League Baseball for what it is today is really cool because you're going to have those touch points, those connection points. And there's going to be some fans and some people at these games that are going to learn about a lot of this stuff for the first time. So I'm really excited to see it and be a part of it. So really looking forward to it.
Curtis, before we go, I want you to put your TBS hat on for a moment here. We are a couple months away now from MLB 2024. Like, what are the main storylines? What should we be paying attention to?
Wow, the fact that it's 2024 already, I think that's the first thing. And one of the things I've really been looking forward to, and we had some of it this year, is once the season finishes and we get into the winter meetings, we get into the off season, what are those big moves that happen that make the fan base for that team, blow up, make baseball blow up? Mm-hmm. All those different things. And what's cool is I got a chance to be a part of one of those. I was a part of a big trade that happened, 3-team trade, and moved Max Scherzer, myself, Edwin Jackson, who I talked about, players that still played 10 years after that trade. But it was one of those big things that happened. And it's just so many eyeballs and people talking about it. And there's no game being played. So it's that type of stuff that's happening that I get so excited about. Of course, starting at the top with Shohei Ohtani. And whether we love the contract amount, how it's structured, or we hate all those different things about it. Case in point, I'm not sure if you've all seen it. I think Fanatics posted that they had the #1 selling jersey in the first 48 hours. Yeah. And what was iconic about that is this wasn't just baseball jerseys. He outsold Messi, he outsold Ronaldo, and we know how popular those sports are. So those types of things I get really excited about because the game is global and has a chance to be even more global, more impactful. Players now, one of the best rule changes I saw happen that not a lot of people talked about is every team plays everybody. So now, when a player like Otani or an MVP like Mookie Betts or a World Series champion like the Texas Rangers are on the schedule, you're going to see them this year. You don't have to wait year after year after year. For example, the New York Yankees played the Milwaukee Brewers. I know you have your Brewers hat on here. The Brewers tweeted this last 2022, Aaron Judge's MVP year. It was the first time in 6 years that the Yankees had been to Milwaukee. So imagine you're a Brewers fan. We have one right here, and you don't see Aaron Judge come to your home ballpark and have a record-breaking season. Those little things that don't change anything to the rules are easy ways, in my opinion, to market the game, to grow the game, to expand the game. Being from Chicago, we all wanted to be like Michael Jordan. Imagine if Michael Jordan didn't go to your town and you didn't get a chance to see them play. So those things I'm super excited about, that all these markets are going to see one of the best players in the game and Shohei and some of the best players in the game across the board. But it's going to be fun.
Right. Well, as a Cubs fan, I can verify that there's a lot of electricity and excitement about the upcoming season, and I've got my game 2 of the Dodgers series in April. I got my tickets to that one, so fingers crossed that Otani is showing up for that game. Curtis, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Congratulations on all the work that you're doing in the community with UIC, with the Academy. It's really impressive to see somebody dedicate so much of their time after an MLB career that was as amazing as yours has been, to continuing to use the sport of baseball to further, in this case, education, which is outstanding. So have a great time in the 2024 season, and we'll be seeing all of you soon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.